you all for joining us for our 6th annual Voices of Rural Colorado Joint Legislative Visit. Thanks for being here in person. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
So just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. Masks are required according to the City and County of Denver, and to not get the Denver Metro Chamber in trouble for having an event without masks, we must wear masks when not actively eating or drinking. So I do apologize for that inconvenience, but that is one of the rules that we have to abide by in order to have our in-person event today. We also have put together an incredible agenda for you all, but as you know, sometimes speakers become delayed. So we'd ask for your patience should that happen here throughout the next day and a half. Restrooms are located on this side of the hallway for women and on the opposite side of the hallway for men. So please feel free to get up and excuse yourself when necessary. We also have refreshments at the back of the room. There's some coffee and there's some pastries. That's thanks to our refreshment sponsors. So thank you to those folks for providing those for us. Before we jump into remarks, I wanted to just take a moment to share some information with you. As we all know, the Boulder County area was recently impacted by the Marshall and Middle Fork fires. I think around 1,000 homes were lost. I know specifically there were many educators that were out of a home. Many people lost their animals, everything they own. So if you are interested in helping our friends in Boulder County out, you can take a picture of this QR code and it will take you to a website where you can make a financial contribution to help with the recovery efforts from these fires. The QR code is also in your program if you're not able to capture this picture here on the screen. So our thoughts are with all of those who are suffering through those impacts, and we certainly hope that they can get through this as quickly and as painlessly as possible. So now I would like to introduce Club 20's board chair, Merritt Linky, to give a couple of remarks.
Thank you, Christian, and thank you all for taking the time out of your busy lives and your busy days and your jobs and everything to come and be here in person. I don't know if we always appreciate how important that is for you all to make the time to come to events like this, because it does send a good message to our legislators that us in rural Colorado care. We care about what's going on in the state and about the things that affect us and also that affect everyone in the state. So I'd like you all just to give yourselves a hand for taking that dedication to be here in person. Some of y'all braved bad roads to get here or long driving times, so it really does mean a lot to see your faces all here. So on behalf of Club 20, Action 22, and Pro 15, and I know these guys are probably going to say a few words also, but thank you and welcome to our event this year. Thank you.
We're from the tallest to the shortest. I'm Kathy Schultz, Director of Pro 15 out on the Northeastern Plains. And again, I am so glad that 6 years ago we decided to join together in this effort. Prior to that, we'd each been having our own individual events, coming up and bugging each other individually. We have gotten the attention of our legislators by all joining together. It's been a great opportunity, and so glad that gives us a chance to meet and interact with our fellow rural advocates as we're out here. So appreciate that from all of you. I did put Pro 15 masks on all of my people so I can tell when they have their masks on or don't have their masks on, just to tell you. I'd like to introduce my board vice chair, Terry Hoffmeister, who is a commissioner from Phillips County.
And also thank you for people being here.
I see we got firefighters, we got bull riders, we've got kickbox state champions. If you don't feel safe in this room, you'll never feel safe. So thank you for everybody being here. Thank you for our sponsors, because we know this would not happen without them. So a round of applause for our sponsors that are here. Thank you.
So this year we have a new executive team for Action 22, well, a relatively new executive team. But before I do that, I want to just the Action 22 board members that are here and that braved the weather to come. Let's flash the Action 22 gang sign. So everybody who's a board member, we've got a really great board, and that's really the end all and be all of the success of any organization like this is what an incredible board. We have our new board we have two new board on the executive team, and it's our current executive team is Chad Borthman, Kevin Wilkins, Ashley Valdez, and they're not with us today, but our new executive vice chair is Tony Haas back there, right? And he's the bull rider, the firefighter, and the commissioner, and all the other stuff that they just said. That's him right there. But I'm really excited to introduce you to our new Action 22 board chair. He's been with Action 22 and one of the greatest champions for everything that we do, and not just for Action 22, but for the entire state. And that is our new board chair, Rick Klein.
Tony, forget it. I ain't gonna introduce you. You know, you've been introduced twice. Yes. Hi, my name is Rick Klein. I am my day job is I'm the La Junta City Manager, but I'm the new chair for Action 22. And our mayor, Joe Ayala, came with me up here, and he wants to be involved. You know, go over and introduce yourself to him during the next day and a half. But when Joe came on, he gave me a book, and it was called The Tipping Point. Now, you know, I know I see a lot of people I've known for years. How many of you ever read The Tipping Point? Okay, a few of us. It's by Malcolm Gladwell. Yes. And, you know, I'm going to take one example off of this book because I was real impressed, you know, and, you know, and as we go through our careers and stuff, we can always learn something, and you always can repackage stuff like what we do. And the example that I'm going to use is Paul Revere, you know, and we all know Paul Revere's story about how he rode north out and hit 13 communities, went a lot of miles, and, you know, and then when the British started coming, you know, they all turned out, all those 13 communities. But there was another guy named John Dawes that he went to the south, and he hit just as many miles. He hit as many communities as Paul Revere. Now, one community turned out for him. So what was the difference? You know, and this book breaks it down into 3 areas. You know, the law of the few, and stickiness factor, and the power of content. Now, what made Paul Revere different? You know, Paul Revere was just like what I see in here. He was a guy that went out to all the different communities. He got to know those communities before all this went down. You know, he could see that, you know, somebody had to step up and do it. I mean, so he did. He was, you know, so involved. He was in all the different clubs. You know, if there was an event going on in his area, he was usually the guy running it. If he was, you know, on jury duty, he was elected chairman. So he was that guy, right? John Dawes, he wasn't, but they sent him out. Now, only one person showed up. You know, why? Because Paul Revere, he got out there, just like what we're supposed to be doing and what we're doing. And he got connected with those communities. So when he went out there and he was talking to them, they knew him, they believed in him. So he had that stickiness factor right there, right? Law of the few, because he was one of the ones that would step up for the community all the time. And then we all saw the power of his content because 13 communities came out, where one came out for John Dawes. Okay, so, you know, Kathy, Christian, and Sarah. They're our executive directors, and they're the ones fulfilling our mission. And I just want to have a applause for these three people, because they're taken away from their families, are coming up here to keep us informed. But they can inform us, but if we don't take that and spread that message and get her out, we don't have no power of the voice, So thank you, ladies. So let's take the three groups. If two of the groups show up and the third one don't, the rural voice ain't as great. So the next day and a half, everybody just see what the laws coming out, see how that affects your area, but see how it affects all of our areas. And let's protect rural Colorado, and let's make our voice loud, because instead of 13, 14 communities, let's have all 26 come, and nobody'd be a John Doll. So once we're done, just get ready to get on your horse and let's start riding and tell everybody and get these the laws that we do not want, or the laws that we do want. Let's make sure that rural voice is loud and clear and united. Welcome.
Well, we have a very special guest to welcome us here to the chamber this morning. For literally decades, our three organizations have enjoyed a close partnership with the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce, from elevating rural issues to collaborating around statewide transportation funding. The chamber has been an integral partner in elevating all parts of Colorado. It is in that light that we couldn't be more excited to work with the Denver Chamber's new CEO, JJ Ament. Please join me in welcoming him to give us some welcoming remarks.
Well, remarks is a little aggressive for what I may have a Zoom. Do I need to use the microphone? Well, good morning and welcome to the Denver Metro Chamber of Commerce. So we're delighted that you're here. We have been working together since we started some 155 years ago. This chamber started. So we're actually, you're sitting not in the original location, but this chamber now is one of the 4 or 5 longest continuously operating businesses in the state of Colorado. In fact, it started a couple years before Colorado became a state. And back then, what happened was a group of business people were seeing the Transcontinental Railroad go from east to west and west to east, and it was going through Cheyenne and not here. And so they came together, formed what became the chamber, and built the rail spur that connect us. So transportation's kind of been in our DNA from the very, very beginning. But just wanted to say how happy we are that you're all here. Obviously, this chamber and our partners, East and West, have had a long relationship. Didn't start with me being here, but it sure as hell, sure as heck isn't going to end either with me here. So I'm proud now to run one of the largest chambers of commerce in the United States, and that's this Denver Metro Chamber. So we serve the 9 counties around the region officially, 7 that most people think of as Metro Denver, plus actually Weld and Larimer counties are in that territory. Now, I also know well enough if I stood in Weld County and said, welcome to Metro Denver, I may not get out. So we respect that. But I also remind people that, I grew up on a farm and a cattle ranch in Logan County, and that's still a very special part. My heritage is strawberry farmers, Fruita, and ranchers in gypsum. So all of Colorado is important to us, and we're delighted to work together on so many issues, particularly at the Capitol building. We do have we have the largest business-related lobbying team in the building. We have 10 people over there on a daily basis. So where we can work together and help each other, we certainly want to do that. It is a value and ethic of our business community in the Metro Denver region that all of Colorado needs to be successful and thriving, and then none of us are where we want to be if other parts of our community in this state are in distress. And there's been some antagonism and some misunderstanding, I think, in our policymakers toward our rural folks and our rural communities and the industries and lifestyles that we lead outside of this Metro Denver region. So where we can be partners, we certainly want to be. Where we can help, we want to help. because again, we want all of Colorado to thrive. And I promise you, when we're traveling around the US and the world to recruit and attract business and investment to our state, those pictures that we're showing them are not just of downtown Denver. The Colorado that we're presenting to the world has as much to do with where you all and where I'm from than it does even from this downtown view out the window. So all of us working together creates that Colorado brand that makes us special and makes us attractive for folks to invest here. So thank you again. I'm glad you're here. However we can be helpful, and know you're always welcome, and have an open door to us and a great partnership that we look forward to continuing. Thanks. Kathy, nice to see you.
I wanted to thank JJ for your remarks, and also to brag a little. JJ is one of Pro 15's alumni of the Plains, so shows that there's that strong connection between metro and rural sitting right there in that gentleman. So thank you very much, JJ.
And I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank our sponsors real quick. We've kind of touched on this a little bit so far this morning, but our issue panel sponsors today and tomorrow are Xcel Energy, Eklund and Hamlin LLC, and Lockheed Martin. So they will be bringing you some panel discussions. Our networking reception for this evening is sponsored by Connect for Health Colorado and Pinnacle Assurance. It is not at the governor's mansion. It is literally next door. So like 20 feet. So you shouldn't have to go far. Our venue today was sponsored by HDR, Centura, and Black Hills Energy. Today's lunch is sponsored by CHAPA, St. Mary's Hospital, Mountain West Credit Union Association, and the Colorado Rural Electric Association. Our general sponsors are Viera Wireless, Colorado State Treasurer Dave Young, Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust, Tri-State Generation and Transmission, American Petroleum Institute, and our refreshments are brought to you by David J. Cole and Associates, Mark and Kathy Feckler out of Durango, University of Colorado, Brian Ahern, and the Colorado Gaming Association. So let's give all of our incredible sponsors a round of applause. Maybe it's not. Do you have it open? I'll let you do that. I don't see that.
Oh, it was because it's PDF.
Oh,
It
that's
was
right,
open
that's
on the
right.
other slide.
The Colorado Housing and Finance Authority strengthens Colorado by investing in affordable housing and community development. They offer financial resources to strengthen home ownership, affordable rental housing, and businesses. Here to talk about affordable housing innovations is Jerilynn Francis, Director of Marketing and Community Relations with CHAFA. And I'm still having trouble remembering her new name because she did all of this during COVID. I mean, if you're going to get married, do it when nobody's around. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you for having me. It was a way to add some fun and excitement to otherwise some tough times, right? Well, Jerilynn Francis, that's who I am, and it's a pleasure to be here with you today. It's good to see you all at the Rural Voices of Colorado, so many familiar faces. And I am thrilled that we're kicking off this great 2 days or day and a half, I guess, of discussion with a conversation around affordable housing, because in my view, housing, safe, secure, and affordable housing is really one of the key foundations for a community to thrive. So just by show of hands, who in your community has a focus on strengthening and advancing housing affordability? Raise your hand. Yeah. And how many of you are looking at new and innovative ways to tackle this issue? So many, I know. Great. I want to hear from you as much as I hope you hear from me today, because I learn from you all as well and what's going on in your areas. But let's go ahead and dive right in. First of all, why is it me who gets the pleasure to speak with you today? Who am I and why am I here? I am the Marketing and Community Relations Director for CHAFA. That's the Colorado Housing and Finance Authority. We are perhaps one of the largest investors in Colorado in affordable housing. We are not a state agency. I like to just say that first and foremost. Some folks think of us as a state agency or just assume we are because of our name. But we are not. We were created by the state back in the 70s to help raise capital to bring to Colorado to strengthen affordable housing. But we pay our own way. They actually don't give us any direct state appropriations, and we don't get any direct federal appropriations either. So we go out and raise that capital from the private sector and bring it back to Colorado. We are led by an 11-member board of directors that is appointed by the governor. So we do have that tie back because of our statutory authority. Since our founding in the 70s, we have raised approximately $29.7 billion and invested that statewide. Our work spans a number of, I don't know why that didn't go all the way up, a number of platforms. So we have a focus in homeownership, rental housing, economic development. A lot of folks might not know that we also invest in economic development, and also advancing community partnerships, working with you all at the local level, working with nonprofit communities, providing grants, donations, and sponsorships to help advance our work. And that work, we strive to serve the full housing continuum. You know, there is a wide variety of housing needs across our state, from those who are unsheltered, looking for some kind of shelter, often, unfortunately, in temporary shelter in their car, couch surfing on their friends or neighbors or family members' couch, all the way through affordable rental housing, market-based rental housing, and homeownership. And each one of those needs is really dynamic, diverse, and requires targeted and intentional strategies. And so we look to work across that full housing continuum to bring solutions. Our vision, I'm sorry about the slides not lining up right. Our vision is that everyone in Colorado should have the opportunity for housing stability and economic prosperity. And so that is why we do this work. So for those of you who may have heard me or others from CHAFA speak before, you're probably really accustomed to us talking about tax credits or down payment assistance or home buyer education. And we do all of that, and we do it very robustly. But that's not what I'm going to spend my time talking with you about today. Thanks, Brittany. Today, I want to talk about some new and different things that we've had the privilege of working with our local partners on, and some that we aren't necessarily a part of ourselves, but we're seeing strong innovation in local communities that we wanted to share and help plant some seeds for work that might be more forthcoming. So let's dive right in. The first innovation I wanted to highlight today are resident home mobile communities. So many of us know in our area that we have a mobile home park that is providing what we call naturally affordable housing for our residents. Often that lower or moderate income earning workforce in our community. When we started studying this issue at CHAFA, we learned that there are, in fact, more manufactured homes that are naturally occurring, providing affordable housing, than there are subsidized affordable housing units in the state. And what does that mean? That means we need to work really hard to make sure that we don't lose those units, because we're already struggling to keep up with inventory that's affordable for all of us Coloradans. We can't afford to lose more by losing this naturally occurring affordable housing stock. Two partners that we learned about through this process are Rock USA and Thistle Communities. Rock USA is a national organization that helps organize residents who live in mobile home communities to organize, form a co-op, and purchase the mobile home if it comes up for sale by the original owner. And then they lead and guide that mobile home community. What does that mean? That means that the housing is preserved as affordable. It means that those residents are now in control of their own destiny in terms of making their community a place to thrive. What an empowering vision for any community. It also means that they can control the future lot rents, keeping those rents affordable. So one that we have had the pleasure of participating in recently is Animus View Mobile Home Park in Durango, Colorado. This was a co-op purchase just last year. There are 122 mobile homes in this property. 120 of them were owned by residents, 2 were rental units. When this property came up for sale by the original owners, through new law that was passed in 2020, there was notification provided to the residents that gave them the opportunity to form a co-op and purchase. And who you're seeing in that picture right there, the older man in the picture and the woman sitting next to him, are actually 2 of the residents who led the formation of the co-op. They're fascinating and dynamic people. And they really went around and worked with all their community members to help get this organized and coordinate the purchase of the park. Chappa had a small role. We have a 2.4 million participation in the permanent loan for this financing, but it takes a lot of partners to come together to make this work, including Rock USA. Thistle Communities works closely with Rock because they're the fiscal agent and capacity organization. So as you can imagine, this is a lot of work for individuals who may have never done this before to know how to pave the path. And so Thistle is a nonprofit here in Colorado who's working with mobile home park residents who have an interest in advancing this and helping give them the tools and the information on what do they need to do in order to make this happen. It's not just the purchase of the park, but it's also maintaining the park and ownership in perpetuity. When this happened with Animus View, it was the first resident-owned community to occur in La Plata County in Durango, and now there's already a second, and these folks who led the way in their own park are serving as mentors and leaders for the other park as they consider if that's a right thing for them to pursue. It's not right for everybody, may not be the choice, that's totally okay, but for those who do want to pursue it, there are resources out there. In talking with Rock USA, this here shows you where there are resident-owned communities in the state right now, and their feedback is the conversations around this opportunity are robust in almost any community, they said, in the state, you name it, and they're maybe having some initial conversations about what this looks like. So check them out, Rock USA, and keep that in mind as you see opportunity in your communities with mobile home parks. The next innovation I want to talk about is middle income housing. We've heard loud and clear from so many that as amazing as a lot of the state and federal resources that we work with or we administer at Chappa are, they cap out, at being able to serve between anything above 60% AMI or 80% AMI. And yet we all know the housing needs don't cap out there, right? So what can we do to help serve that more moderate earning community member, the community member that earns between 80% AMI and 120 or 140% AMI? We're seeing more interest in what we call middle income housing. That's what we define it as, middle income housing. Chappa put together a middle income access loan program that serves as mezzanine debt. So it's subordinate debt to a different first position lien. We have since launched this, supported 5 developments across the state for a total of 622 rental housing units serving middle income population. And those developments are in Denver, Steamboat, Keystone, Gibson, Estes Park. And you can see the size of the developments ranges anywhere from 26 units to 200 units. And everything in between. And we know there's a different scale that's appropriate and desired for different communities. So this is designed to work with that different scale. I think this is a great innovation. We already have 20 plus more developments in our pipeline interested in participating in this. I want to acknowledge Governor Polis, who in his budget recommendation for the year encourage the General Assembly to appropriate some of the ARPA funds to help spur this even further. For those communities who are looking to serve this income, this could be a great resource to help more developments moving forward. Okay, more on the innovation front, modular housing. When you picture modular housing, do you picture what you see on that screen there? I think a lot of us don't. I think a lot of us who are in the field don't really know what to think of when we think of modular housing, but it's robust and it's beautiful and it's efficient and it's fast. And it's a more affordable option for a lot of Coloradans. We are working with a lot more community partners who are interested in how to bring modular housing into the space. This is actually a duplex with 2 units. One that we are in conversation with right now is a partnership with a developer in Aurora and Elevation Community Land Trust. So it would be these units that you see, 6 duplexes for 12 total units in Aurora in a land lease situation. So residents don't have ownership of the land, again, also making it more affordable. And then with the modular housing, another affordable piece to it, serving individuals who are 80% of AMI and below. Those units that you saw there, 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, beautiful home for someone to live in. I also want to acknowledge the Telluride Foundation, who has also been leading conversations in communities such as Uray, Norwood, Ridgeway, Nucla, to bring modular housing to those areas. So 2 great partners for you to reach out to if this is something you think you want to pursue: Telluride Foundation, Elevation Community Land Trust. Okay. And those that Telluride Foundation is working on are in various phases of moving things forward. Some are just at the very concept level. Some are waiting for final approval on plans, so want to get things in the ground right away. All right, small scale housing. So I said it earlier, not everyone needs or wants a 100-unit development. That can be quite a lot for certain markets. Some folks simply want 10, 20, 14 units, but how do we get those done? That has been the challenge. Where are the resources to help get those housing units built? We have launched at CHAFA a new small scale housing loan program. This is a permanent loan. We just closed on our first one late last year. So excited, in Costilla County, 10-unit apartment building, 1, 2, 3-bedroom units. Residents will earn between 80 and 120% AMI. Again, serving that middle income, moving beyond what some of the limits of our subsidized programs have been. And great features, including Energy Star appliances. So something that you all might not have had available to you through CHAFA before, but if you have this need and interest, talk to us. Again, it might not be right for every development, but for those it is. Happy to partner. The other thing about small scale housing that we know is it's not just about the financing, it's about the technical assistance. How do you get it done? Like, how do you start from point A and move it to fruition? To assist in that space, we at CHAFA launched a technical assistance program. We went out and hired affordable housing consultants that we know are familiar with Colorado, get projects done, and are well regarded. And we launched this as a pilot program last year, reaching out to local communities who had a need. A lot of the community partners we're working with are local elected officials. Some are nonprofits, some are a combination of both, but they all had this passion and nugget of an idea of, you know, we maybe own some land because the school owns it, or the county owns it, or the city owns it, or our nonprofit owns it, but we don't know what else to do from there. Help us. And so we've matched them up with these consultants pro bono and help them define a scope of work that's going to elevate their vision moving forward. This program's open to folks who are wanting to build 30 units or fewer. It is designed to serve that small scale housing. Developers who can already build 100 units, 200 units, they don't need this. They're good, and we're glad they're good. But we want to serve those who do need this. So 30 units or fewer. It can be a vision of for sale or for rent property. Okay, that's okay. And it can be a brand new construction, or it can be acquiring a building and rehabbing it for housing that's affordable. We also have some grant dollars because we know sometimes it's not just about the TA, but maybe you need to get an appraisal done. Maybe you need to get some land survey work done. So we have some grant dollars we can bring to the table to help cover those costs. And we work really closely with other funders and partners in the state and can try and help build those connections for you as well, if you have needs beyond what we can support in that space. So where have we done this? You heard me say last year was a pilot round. So we had 2 rounds, just over 10 projects participating in that round. You can see the parts of the state where we're working with project sponsors in both of those rounds. Oops, I skipped too far. This just gives you a flavor for some of the project sponsors we worked with. A private developer, family-owned property in San Luis, Lupine Luna. They have this commercial building that they own. They really had a desire because of their passion for their community. It's where their multi-generation heritage was from. They really wanted to use that building to give back. And it was awesome. And it was going to be a family venture. And they said, we don't only want to provide affordable housing, but can we use some of the building for commercial space too? Whether it's like a work drop-in center or coffee shop, or, you know, we're open, something that really adds value. And they thought maybe 6 to 10 housing units. They weren't sure. But these are just everyday folks. They didn't know where to begin, who to talk to, what to do. They were one of our project sponsors. We matched them up with our consultants. Our consultants helped them do some scaling for the building, help them connect with vendors who could do some appraisal and survey work, put together rendering options like the one you're seeing on the screen, put these on drawing boards, help them go to local community fairs, engage with their fellow community members to get some community input on what do others think, what would the community at large like to see in this space, what do we all think would add value, and that has helped them advance their plans further. So we will continue this technical assistance work this year. This is just one example. You saw me highlight others from across the state. I think it's really exciting. I think the other thing, just to, be really clear about it, what we're learning through this is we can get them up to a certain part, but funding still is going to be a challenge. And so together that presents an opportunity for all of us to work together and continue to try and cultivate more resources to make these come to fruition. But we're making progress by building out the technical assistance still. So. Okay, and continuing in that vein, technical assistance. So I told you about the pro bono consulting that we're offering. Because we know that this is such a huge need, because we know and have heard so much, I kind of know about CHAPA and I really want to do affordable housing, don't know about your products, don't know how to access them. We thought, let us try and pave a way. So we have just launched at the beginning of this year, Colorado Affordable Housing Developers Guide. This is a comprehensive guide to help navigate the affordable housing development process. It goes from everything to evaluating, is your organization well suited to do this? Like, what are some of the considerations that you would want to take as an organization before you embarked on this venture? To how to engage and define your market need, pursue a market study, how to put together your development team, how to go out, engage with community and make sure you're getting community input into your process. Tips and outlines on the variety of funding resources that are available here in Colorado, not just CHAPA's, but from our great partners at DOH and DOLA and others, all the way through construction and operation and lease up and ongoing asset management. It's on our website. You have the link here. We'll send out these slides so that, because it's being cut off so you can't see it. And I'm a little afraid to touch it. So anyway, but the link is on these slides on our website. We have it in a PDF version, and then we also have an interactive website that has case studies, tool sheets, checklists that you can download and fill out as you look at what you'd like to pursue in your community. We're also having trainings to help roll out this guide so that we can walk folks through it chapter by chapter, okay? So the list of trainings is right here on this slide. We're doing in-person in Pueblo, Alamosa, Durango, Rifle. Come join us. And we'll also be doing some online ones throughout the year. Our online webinars will be recorded so that they'll be posted on our website and just accessible for free. Working in affordable housing and advancing these goals shouldn't be as much of a mystery as it has been. And so we want to try and help pull back the curtains on that a little bit. Okay, and then last, I want to just acknowledge so many of our local partners who are really leading community engagement in the affordable housing space. In the past few years, there have been so many local city, county, or regional efforts and coalitions formed to help advance affordable housing goals. One example that I always point to as to doing amazing work is Pueblo. They formed the Pueblo Commission on Housing and Homelessness. Anyone here from Pueblo? Yeah. Hey, Pueblo peeps. Y'all are doing awesome work through this commission. So it's not just Pueblo itself, it's also Pueblo County. So you have large regional stakeholders. It's the nonprofits, it's the developers who are working in the affordable housing space, all coming together to help build a vision for how to advance those local community goals. It started as the commission, and then there has been a developers cohort that's built out of that to help prioritize and pace development, because through the commission, a lot of what was learned and teased out is there were really good nuggets, but some nonprofits were working independently on similar concepts. So how do we unite, right? And then combine forces and move forward together in a coordinated strategic fashion. So a lot of good work going on in that commission. I know Durango, through the La Plata Economic Development Council, has also been looking at a similar model. So I would just say kudos to all of you who are doing that fantastic work. So much of that includes things like housing needs assessments and grant writing or staffing. And my offer to you as you embark on this efforts is don't hesitate to reach out to CHAPA. We have resources to help you fund these efforts. We know housing needs assessments are not inexpensive. We know it takes staff to help coordinate and keep the ball moving on some of these regional commissions and stakeholder groups. Reach out to us. We often can provide matching grants if you're applying to DOLA or DOH, and they're going to help you with some of the funding, but you might need a match. We can assist you with that. So I would say these are our community relationship managers in the state. We have Margie Joy serving Western Slope and northwest part of the state, Chris Lopez in the southwest, Jeff Ousley in the San Luis Valley, Caroline in Pueblo, and then we'll be adding new folks in northern and eastern Colorado this year. And then there's me. So don't hesitate to give us a call. We want to be a partner with you. So many of our CRMs, because we're statewide now, we have nuggets from all over. And so a lot of what we do is just help connect the dots. Hey, so-and-so is doing this in their area. You might want to talk with them and see about what their experience has been. So keep us in mind. We are here to work with you. And with that, I welcome questions, concerns, what you're seeing in innovations in your area as well. Yes.
And please raise your hand and wait for Brittany to come to you with a microphone.
This is Phil Rico, Mayor of the City of Trinidad. I have 2 questions real quick.
Yes.
The mobile home purchase.
Yes.
There's a bill coming out that was established through the legislature. What is the reason for the need for that?
So I think a lot of, if you're talking about the pending legislation that's going to be coming out this year, what we've heard, and we're not sponsoring that, so I don't want to speak on behalf of the sponsoring organizations or bill sponsors themselves. Always good to talk with them first and foremost. So let me just say that disclaimer. But what I will say is, in the past year, we have seen that some of the provisions that were articulated in the 2020 legislation aren't necessarily always being followed. And sometimes the timelines aren't enough to allow residents to consider if they do want to organize and provide a co-op. So I think those are some of the elements that the bill sponsors were working to address.
The second question I had is, you talk about the modular housing where the homeowner owns the building, but the developer owns the property.
No, and the land trust owns the property. So it's a nonprofit that's a mission-driven nonprofit with an intent not to pull the land out from under the landowner, if that's kind of, or the homeowner, if that's kind of where you're going. Yeah, great question. Yeah.
How does that impact the building owner?
Yeah, so they have a 99-year ground lease then when they purchase that home. So they don't own the land, but it's a 99-year ground lease, and the land trust is managed by a nonprofit that's going to keep that land available for that affordable housing and help support if that owner does want to sell down the road, making sure that the property stays within what the agreements are for that particular property. Yeah. Thank you. Good questions. Thank you, Mayor. Yes. Awesome. Okay. Well, again, it's a pleasure to be with you. Oh, I'm sorry. Who'd I miss?
No, I was waiting for the microphone.
Oh, I thought you meant we were covered. I thought, okay.
Follow the instructions.
Yeah, good job.
Carl Dakin with Housing O2. We're struggling with the definition of AMI.
Yeah.
And how it fits into these programs.
Yeah.
A lot of communities we're dealing with, the AMI for the average person is actually below minimum wage. So if you end up with a situation where you're subsidizing the housing, you're also putting a burden on the community to subsidize something ongoing over time. So we would like to see the middle income redefined, maybe move away from AMI and more towards something that follows standard wages or something in the community rather than tied to per capita income, because it seems to distort everything to subsidize housing rather than workforce housing.
So let's talk more about that part, in part because I have more questions and I want to learn. AMI is what HUD sets annually, and then it is based on those local, it's based by county, it's based by number of people in the household, but I totally get that a formula doesn't always reflect accuracy for every situation. So that's why I want to learn more about what's going on in your area. We do have to rely on AMI when it is a state or federally subsidized program, because that's what they govern. And so where we see gaps in the marketplace, that's where we're trying to say, okay, these federal programs cap out here, but we're not addressing the needs yet fully. So how do we kind of fit in? But I'd like to learn more. So if we can catch up in a break or offline about the scenario you're describing about folks earning below minimum wage, but still being middle income, because typically if they're earning minimum wage, that's more at the extremely low income level on the AMI scale. And typically there are a fair amount of state and federal resources available to support housing in that space, but I just might not be catching the scenario you're describing. So that's why I chat more. Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Rachel Richards from Aspen, Pickens County, and thank you so much for your presentation and all of Chatham's work on housing issues. Our community has about the largest housing program for a community its size in the country. We started quite a while ago, and so we've run into the problems that others will run into in the future.
Yeah.
One of the things I really would like to agree with the AMI.
Okay.
I looked at what they do for AMI in Washington, D.C. And because the workforce comes from all the surrounding counties and cities in Washington, D.C., they take the income from those surrounding communities to determine what is the average median income. In a community like ours, if it's average median income and taking into account all the second homeowners,
right,
or people who brought their income and do not actually work, it totally distorts what working people are making in these averages. And so that has become a real problem, I think, in setting the appropriate price for buyers and understanding what is the true earned income from workers in a community versus retirement funds that are brought to a community.
Right.
Which when you have a lot of 1%ers, it can be a real problem. The second thing I'd like to talk about is that we actually have saved a number of our mobile home parks over time, 4 of them, Lazy Glen, Aspen Village, Woody Creek, Smuggler, and we're now working on Phillips Curve. The issue is that mobile homes decline rapidly in their livability. Their average life is given at about 27 years federally before they're deteriorated. So while we have, in many cases, made this a land ownership opportunity for those tenants, they're no longer a space rent. What we're finding is they really can't afford to replace the older modular home. And the new buyer would be buying something very dilapidated and need to both buy the land, the old trailer, and then put in a new $200,000 modular home.
Right.
So these are the issues that occur over time as your program ages, and the more people can think in advance about the aging issue, that's important.
I totally agree, and thank you for bringing those up, and thanks for the clarification on the AMI, because when you you describe it. I see what you're saying. So I'm going to take that back again for the programs that we administer that aren't state or federal dollars coming in. We might have some more flexibility to look at some of those parameters. So I'll take that back. For the ones that are fed in state, still look at it. Our flexibility just might not be as robust, but I appreciate that. On the mobile home replacement, boy, that is a struggle. So oftentimes you're absolutely right. Those homes aren't in great condition. The newer homes are more highly efficient, but it can be a cost to replace the unit and bring it in. Also, repair for the homes is sometimes available. Great organizations like Energy Outreach Colorado and others have some grant and investment dollars to help do some fix-up work on efficiency of mobile homes. So we always refer them as a resource. In fact, we have a whole mobile home resource flyer that we've put together with lots of different opportunities for repair replacement funds. So I'll get that with the slides to Christian and groups so they can send them out so everyone is aware of those. But depending on the program, you are correct. Sometimes they'll require certain things to be updated in addition to maybe just the main things. So not a perfect solution, but better than losing the housing stock, right? So preserve the land, preserve the affordability, and let's continue to work on how we can strengthen the units themselves. Thank you for those comments. Yeah.
Hey, Jerilynn,
Hey.
Tim Kramer with Tri-State. We had a chance to chat with
How are you?
briefly.
Yeah.
Rifle last fall.
Yes.
Just want to follow up on that. If you could talk a little bit about Chaffa's relationship with electric utilities and whether we're a partner in your projects, whether there's a role we could play, particularly in rural areas, in terms of being a part of the solution to making housing more affordable. I just don't know if the utility hookup is just kind of a given, predictable cost that there's not a lot of room, wiggle room on, or if there's more to do.
I think you are absolutely a partner, and housing and energy are intricately linked, particularly as we all work together to help reach the state's climate action goals. And so partnership with utilities to help our development community, whether it's those who are coming through our more traditional programs like the tax credit program or others such as some of the innovations we were talking through today. How do these folks access the rebates or the incentives and the offerings that utilities are bringing online as part of your mandates or your proactive work? How are we helping connect those dots so that while we're being more efficient, we aren't inadvertently also building more expensively, and as a result of that, turning out less product? So I love the collaboration opportunity. I think it's a huge need, and I think it's going to be even more pressing in the next few years.
We'll talk offline about how we can help you share.
Thanks, Drew.
Share our information. Help share yours.
That sounds great. And I know I'd love to learn more about the rural utilities, and Drew, let's do catch up. And I know Excel, in terms of larger utility, is also being really robust and trying to be more proactive about getting their resources out as well. So, yes.
Thank you. This is Matt Sher, Eagle County.
Hi.
County Commissioner.
Yes.
I'm going to beat the AMI horse one more time, but just to say that, as you mentioned, the difficulty with it is every community is different, so it impacts us in different ways. So we already, I'm sure, did the same thing, is talk to our congressional delegation.
Yeah.
The problem with bringing that to them is like, well, that's your problem. You may have a solution, but I've got a whole bunch of them in the state. I think what we do need is that ability to figure out what a state solution would look like, because at the federal level, it has to be a very singular solution.
Right.
So I don't know if Chaffa is an organization, but I wonder if you could be involved in finding out what that may be that could work for the whole state on the federal level. I think that's just figuring out what the solution is that will work for everyone and not just every different community.
No, I think I love your comment. I think we'd be happy to talk about it. We work closely with the congressional delegation as well. I think the challenge when we're talking about federal programs is then it, as I think you were implying, it's not just then applicable to Colorado, but then you got to go through the process to get those changes nationwide, right? Because those AMI restrictions, for example, on the tax credit program are the same in Colorado as they are in New York or Chicago. I mean, the AMI numbers are different, but the threshold of what can be served by that program is the same. So that's why I was saying we can look at the federal without a doubt. Would love to problem solve with you on that and raise something up. But our ability to change it is limited because we're not the feds. But when it's our own dollars, yes, we have a little bit more flexibility. Those things can be elevated and discussed at our organization. Thank you. Yeah. And I won't speak for the state, but it is a conversation that the state would be great partners and collaborators and thought leaders with us on that as well. Good. I love it. All right. Anything else? Yes.
I think it would be beneficial to distinguish between affordable and attainable. There's a difference. Like we were talking about communities and you know, Aspen, for instance, you know, their affordable housing isn't necessarily attainable. So I think that it would benefit to really think about the difference between affordable and attainable when we're talking about the different communities across Colorado.
Yeah.
Kind of put that in the mix to understand that a lot of times it's not, it may be affordable percentage wise in your community, but it may not be attainable to the people that really need it.
Yeah. So I know every community has their own lexicon that's used that resonates with the community. Totally get it. I will say at Chaffa, for us, our focus is on housing affordability. No matter if you earn minimum wage, if you earn the 100% of area median income, whatever that means, if you're looking at it in a county or a region or the state, if you earn $50,000, $75,000, everyone needs a home, a safe place to live that is affordable to them. So for us, doesn't matter if someone's transitioning out of homeless, if they're in that middle income space, if they're a teacher, a firefighter, a server at the restaurant, someone who gave us our coffee this morning, everyone deserves to have the access to housing affordability. So that's our lexicon. But I certainly understand that each community looks at, is it workforce? Is it attainable? Is it affordable? And those different things mean something different in your area than theirs. So that's sort of a local conversation, but I will tell you for Chaffa, it's all about housing affordability, no matter where you fall or an individual falls on that housing continuum. Thank you for the comment.